Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache from NacheSnow.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, I have Lakaye back on with me. Welcome, Lakaye.
Whoop, whoop. Hey, Nache. Thanks for having me back on again. I'm never leaving.
I know, right? Absolutely. People loved the product versus services episode, and I love just seeing all the comments on the Instagram posts.
What I think is interesting that you always say product versus service. I think you should switch that to service versus product.
It
And
just
yeah, it
doesn't
was a great
flow.
episode.
Doesn't flow. So if you guys listen to 128 with Monique from Butter and Lie, it in the episode she's like talking about how service is like an easier business to start with, and I was like, whoa, don't say that. Lakaye like that too much. But it is true. She was talking about how it was kind of like a low startup cost versus her skincare business, which is her soaps, which had a little bit more of a tail to it, right? Where when she was doing chess, she said all she needed was her skills, her chessboard, her knowledge, and she could like teach that to students. It was low cost.
Yeah, they could buy their own chessboard.
Right, right. So, okay, I know, whatever. But anyway, folks, before we get into the episode, just a couple of admin things. Sharing is caring, my friends. If you love this episode, please share away. Also, if you love the podcast, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate me 5 stars. I greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up. And wherever you're listening to it, be it Spotify, Audible, you name it, because I try to be everywhere. Please just hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you'd love to support Lakaye and I, you could support me by going over to NacheSnow.com. And if you hit that little shop button in the navigation, I've got all the things from the Life Cleanse Journal to digital products to all kind of stuff. And if you'd like to support Lakaye, where can they find you?
Well, if you're in the Hampton Roads area, or if you'd like to come visit a beautiful beach town to come and have some photos taken, you can come and check me out. I'm at Lakaye Umba Photo on Instagram. You can visit my website, lakayeumba.com. And if you want to see some of my art, because Nache and I talk a lot about art, which is going to get us into this next episode, you can go to Queens and Canvas on Instagram.
Yay. Okay, so today we're talking about hobbypreneur versus entrepreneur. And I did not coin that term.
I'm pretty sure you did, didn't you?
Oh, no, right? It's legally mine. No. But I think we should like first start off by defining it. So I'm going to, Lakaye, tell you kind of how I define it, and then let me know if your definitions differ. So I think there is a distinction between hobby, a hobbyist, a hobbypreneur, if you will, and an entrepreneur. And if we wanted to even get further, probably a small business. And to me, if you have a hobby and you are not doing anything but that hobby, you're not selling anything, you're not making any money at all, not even breaking even, not doing anything, that is a hobby. You are doing it for fun. You are spending money, not making money. That is a hobby. A hobbypreneur to me is someone who is making some kind of income. You might not be making that income, of course, in order to live, to pay your bills, to do anything like that, but you are making some money, and it might be barely breaking even, or just a little bit above breaking even, or maybe even more than that, but you are making money. And if you're making enough where you need to report it to the IRS, you are like a business. So you're like a hobbypreneur, and I use hobbypreneur because you're probably not making as much as an entrepreneur, but you're still making money. And then I consider an entrepreneur someone who is, you don't, sometimes you're incorporated, sometimes you are a sole prop, but you have a a business, if you will, that you have defined and you are actively trying to scale it in order for it to become something else. And I think this is where it gets really weird. And I was reading a lot of articles on it. The difference between an entrepreneur and a small business owner is the risk. Like some articles say, entrepreneurs are a little bit more risky and they do untraditional businesses, where small business owners usually are doing businesses that we can identify with, like that aren't of great risk. That's all.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
I find it interesting that there's a fine line between an entrepreneur and a hobbypreneur. And I think you are on that line at all times because I don't think that you've ever had a hobby that you did not try to monetize as long as I've known you. So here is my question for you. Where do you find yourself in those definitions?
I know I teeter the line between a hobbypreneur and an entrepreneur some years, but I consider myself as an entrepreneur because even though, yes, sometimes things that are my hobbies up making me money, my goal is to scale. My goal is to each year try to make more money and take risk in doing things that are untraditional, maybe like selling digital products and doing courses on creativity. I mean, courses aren't totally untraditional. I can't talk today. But yeah, but so I consider myself an entrepreneur because I'm always looking for ways to continue to scale in order to do the things I love, in order to work towards more financial freedom.
Okay, that's what I thought you were going to say. And it's interesting also because when you were reading the definitions, I was trying to think, am I a small business? Am I an entrepreneur? I am, by those definitions, I am trying to make a livable income just from doing what I'm doing. And then I
Mm-hmm.
had another thought at the exact same time. I think photographers pretty quickly jump from hobby to hobbypreneur just for the sheer reason that as soon as you get a camera that's not a camera phone or a point and shoot, somebody's going to ask you to take pictures. Somebody, somewhere. And so, what
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people is you have to find a way to make money from that. Otherwise, people will monopolize your time. The equipment is very expensive that you have to keep updating. So, you have to find a way to make money from it. So, even though I had to sit back when we were talking about doing this episode, I had to sit back and ask myself, do I have any hobbies? Do I have any real hobbies that I don't try to also monetize? And I don't.
Mm-mm.
So,
Mm-mm.
and I think that is your fault because I think that you have rubbed off on me over the years where I was just perfectly content to just play around with some things. And then you rubbed off on me, Nashay. What can I say?
And that's interesting because I think too, like you could look at hobbypreneur versus entrepreneur is like, I think a hobby, it starts off from someone doing a passion where I think someone just jumps and starts off too as an entrepreneur when they just start a business that, I mean, it's not necessarily a hobby, right? I was trying to think of a good example of it. Like, let's say if I want to open up a popcorn stand, you know, at no
Hmm.
point was popcorn a hobby. Like,
That
that
is.
was like a entrepreneurial endeavor or small business endeavor from jump. But where I think you get into hobbypreneur is when like I'm a knitter and then all of a sudden I start knitting these scarves and I start making a little bit of money and then I start making more money and then it starts to grow into something and that end up might grow into a full scale business, or maybe you stay as a hobbypreneur and keep it small, but you're still a preneur, right? Because you're making money. and you're selling a product or service.
Okay, that's an important distinction because I've seen a lot of businesses like the drop shipping businesses now that Amazon is so huge.
Mm.
That is not, I mean, some people think that making money is a hobby,
I
which is,
mean,
but
yeah, I guess it's how you define a hobby. I had that definition somewhere because, like, a hobby is defined a pursuit outside one's regular occupation, engaged in especially for relaxation. So, writing, bird watching. I don't know if selling products on Amazon would count, but maybe. I mean, it's all subjective a little bit, right?
right, right. So why don't let's talk about some pros and cons of turning your hobby into a business.
Mm, yeah. Shoot.
So one pro would be that you're super interested in this activity, and so it's easy to share that enthusiasm with others and therefore make money from it.
Hmm, fair. I think one pro of turning your hobby to a business is you get to pay for all your materials
Ooh.
through selling. Like that is the main reason that I have turned any hobby into a business. Is so all my tools and materials are covered.
Oh, I wish I had thought of that one. Um, let's see. Another pro is that since you're always doing it, you have lots of content, or you potentially have lots of content to put online. So the process and the actual product after it's finished, you share with people. And again, they also feel that enthusiasm.
Mm, mm, yeah. Another reason I would say it's good to do it is I feel like mine is all sounds like it's just monetary. But once you cover the cost of materials, if you end up making a profit, you can then use that money to save or put towards a trip or any special projects around your house or whatever it might be. But that extra money can give you freedom to do some things that maybe you wouldn't be able to do with your regular salary.
That is true. That is true. I don't have any more good pros in me, so let's go to cons. The biggest con for me, and I've experienced it, is burnout from taking something that you enjoy and then just doing it too often. Then the fun gets dried up.
I think the biggest con could be the pressure to create
Mm,
and come up
mhm.
with new products or material or whatever it might be. Because when you're just doing it for yourself, it's like, ah, whatever. But if people are expecting you
Right,
to do something, put something out, to have new pictures on Instagram, whatever it might be, it might take the fun out of your hobby a little bit.
right. Those expectations are a beast.
Mm.
So another con would be the same thing with the expectations is because I work with clients a lot, I have to meet their expectations directly. So it's kind of along the same thing as what you're saying, but yours is more time sensitive and mine is more literally client expectations.
Yeah. I think I don't have any other cons because I think that the cons for me is like whenever you start to do anything for money, it can take the fun out of it. And that's the biggest thing. And then maybe, okay, maybe if I had another one, it would be the judgment.
Mm,
Because when you have a hobby and you're not selling whatever it is, it really just it doesn't matter. But when you start selling that thing, people will start judging that thing.
right.
And that can feel a little ew, if you don't have thick skin. Like you have to have thick skin when you're selling anything, when you're putting anything out there. But in particular when you're putting something out there that you love and you're passionate about.
Right, right. And they'll sense your discomfort with putting yourself out there and then they'll attack you. They can smell it a mile away.
Yeah. Yes.
So my final con is the administrative part of running a business. So this kind of goes with being an artist versus an entrepreneur. I was reading a couple of articles about that, but from my own experience, when you're creating art, it's a it feels good. It's a part of your process. That's why you got into your hobby in the first place. But in order to make it a business or in order to actually make money from it, there are some business things that you have to keep in order. You have to know your processes. You have to ship responsibly, get your stuff out to the clients on time. Do you remember over the summer during the height of the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
when certain companies were taken off because everybody was at home, but then the shipping delays started happening, and then there was such a backlash
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because people couldn't get this stuff out in time. It wasn't even their fault. It was because of the postal system, because of the pandemic, because people didn't have enough hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the little businesses that started, I'm sure some of them, I'm not going to say that a lot of them closed because of things like that, but there was a lot of negative feedback, especially on social media, and that can be a real downer. So you have to have your
Mm-hmm.
processes in place.
Or start out small, right? And I think that is really key, because if you put your expectations out there from jump,
Hmm.
I can only produce X amount. I am one person. Like, you tell
Mm,
your story. So it goes back to what we talked about even in that other episode where I told you, like, there's some accounts that I follow where they're like, hey, what I produce comes out on Monday
hmm
and that's it. And people
hmm
sometimes get mad at those people because they think they're creating this kind of like demand, and then things are sold out on their website in like 10 minutes or whatever.
I am mad at those people.
But I am not mad at all of them, because
I'm not
I'm
mad. I'm saying that playfully
just,
because
yeah.
I've tried to get. There's a certain mug that I want to have, and I try to order it, and it's always sold out within minutes. You're laughing because you probably want one too. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Which mug?
The lolly, what's called lolly lolly.
Oh, I've never heard of that. Is that the Instagram? It's
Don't
Lolly
tell the people
Lolly?
because I don't want them going to get one on
Oh, it's too
Mondays when they're
late.
released. Sorry, folks, we got
Oh,
to cut this
Lolly
part out.
Lolly Ceramics.
Yes.
Oh. Oh, I've never heard of her.
Who are you talking
Interesting.
about?
I was talking about, there's, oh my goodness, I can't think of her name, but she sells wood pieces.
Ooh.
And she, every Monday, she'll be like, hey, I have X amount of pieces, and then people can sell them. But I've never heard of Lolly Lolly. Hmm.
Let me tell you something. Those mugs are so beautiful and creative, and she must make three a week. I'm sure it's more than that, but it feels like it because I try to get one and they're gone.
But you have to respect the game, because at least she's not just selling them and then overworking herself to try to produce something that she cannot keep up with.
Sustain. Right. That's true.
You know, I mean, it sucks for you.
Yeah, it does.
It
That's
doesn't
all I'm
suck
thinking
for
about here, actually.
I was trying to look for this other. I don't know if you like it though. I love. There's this other girl. I cannot find her. Of course, like, I feel like every time I come on Instagram, her mugs pop up. The one time I come on Instagram, I can't find her.
Don't
Um,
worry, it'll come up
it will.
as soon as we finish.
As soon as we hang up, right? So if I find it, I will shoot. Oh, here she is. Oh, I was on my dreams, plans, ideas instead of my creative route. So
Hmm.
there is this potter in Texas,
Okay.
and her name is Renee Lepresti. So it's RENEE_LOPRESTI. I love her mugs. I haven't tried to get one yet, but I bet you hers sells out too, because it looks like it takes her a lot of time. Yeah, she says next shop update isn't even until mid to late May.
See, I don't even like. Oh, these are
Aren't
beautiful.
they beautiful?
They're very you. Oh my gosh.
I love them. I love everything about them. But I mean, going back to our conversation, you are right. There were a lot of entrepreneurs this summer that weren't able to keep up with the demand. And on top of that, I don't think their customer service sometimes their customer service was on point because it was interesting. I interviewed Alana last year, and on episode 119, and she talked about how she ran into supply issues,
Hmm.
which then caused her to not be able to, like, ship everything all the time or on time. And so sometimes it's out of your fault, no matter how nice you are. People are just upset because everybody is wants things now, now, now. But then I think there were other people though that probably didn't communicate well either. So that's another thing about turning your hobby into a business. You have to be a good communicator and make sure there's a clear understanding of expectations.
Right. Okay, good. I like this line of questioning. Let's continue with this list of how to be a good hobbypreneur.
So before we even just get into some tips, I just want to quickly say too that there's another thing that you could be, and that's just a straight side hustler. And for a couple of years when I was trying to get out of debt, I was doing anything and everything in order to just make money in order to get out of debt. So it wasn't related to anything I loved. I would work any job, I would sell anything. I just wanted some cash in order to just get debt free, right? So
Right.
so I only bring that up because even though you have to do what you have to do in order to meet a goal, when you can turn a hobby into a side hustle and do it well without burning yourself out or getting controlling your feelings, like if someone doesn't like your product, it is a lot more fulfilling than just doing a job just to get cash. So so I just want to throw out there that I prefer being a hobbypreneur or an entrepreneur that uses my passion versus, and no offense to anybody who works here, but like working at like McDonald's, you know?
Why does McDonald's get the hate all the time?
I know. I think they came up in my head because I saw a little article today where they had a picture of McDonald's and it was like $500 for a signing bonus because they're having a hard time getting people to actually apply to
Yeah.
work there.
Poor McDonald's. We feel so
I
bad
know.
for them.
Hey, but let me just tell you guys, I am not knocking the hustle
No, no,
because
no.
in my teens and early 20s, I worked at Arby's, Steak Escape, and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Okay?
And
So no, I am not throwing any shade.
I made my rounds at all the restaurants too. Now, I didn't do fast food, but I definitely worked at a lot of restaurants.
Yeah. I know. I feel like either people were like team restaurants or team like stores, like in the mall. Like I can't even think of the stores
Retail.
that aren't even around. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. But okay. So anywho, I just wanted to throw that out there. But in order to okay, so I'll throw out the first tip. In order to successfully become a hobbypreneur or entrepreneur, I think you have to be comfortable with sharing your work. And the first step you hear a lot of my guests on here talk about is they started sharing somewhere, be it Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. You have to be okay with sharing your work
Okay.
or you're not going to get discovered.
That's true. And I think a lot of people, if they, before the social media was so big, I think a lot of people got started with doing fairs, church fairs or craft fairs on the weekend. So
And I
yeah.
think those are still good. I mean, of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but even when I talked to, I think it was Justine on episode 124, she talked about, I want to say, the importance of fairs. And so I'm like,
Hmm.
once those start to open back up, I think those are good too. So that's a good point. It's just not social media, but literally putting yourself out there too.
Right. So my tip would be that you have to have a process and you have
Mm.
to develop your processes as soon as you possibly can. As far as intake, how are you going to keep up with the dresses and all of the processes from beginning to end? Just think those things through and even have a friend test it out before you actually start selling it to people, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have angry clients. Now you mentioned, a couple of angry clients here and there, but they speak the loudest. So those are the ones who are going to go to your page and just hate all over you. So you have to take
Mm-hmm.
care of every little small detail.
I agree. Of course, my next one is going to be about money because, that's that's why I'm here, people. Is to charge what you're worth. So, for
Mm.
example, and you're going to laugh at this. Let's hypothetically say I started selling stained glass.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, let's just put it out there.
So meaning you
Uh,
already have a price list and a website built.
no, no, I'm keeping it a hobby for now. I
Okay.
haven't even finished my second piece, but let's say hypothetically. Um, I was looking at this Instagram account of another stained glass person. His name is Pizza Donkey,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and he was saying like for stained glass pieces, and I forgot what the size of the piece was he used as an example. He said unless it's really small, but for probably a standard size, maybe a letter sized almost, you shouldn't charge anything less than $100.
Mm-hmm.
He said even if you're brand new, but if you know how to put together a quality piece, he said anything under that, you're giving it away for free
Mm-hmm.
because the labor, the material, what you might even need to ship it, all of that costs so much money. Anything under that, you are literally giving it away for free. And so I just use that as an example because someone would be like, oh my God, so you just starting out and you're charging that much? But it's just like, but if you think about the hours that are going into it, the cost of material, it's only fair or it's literally a sweatshop, you know?
Right.
And so make sure that you're not knitting a bag for a whole week and then, selling it for $15.
Right. You're literally paying yourself 2 cents an hour.
Yes. Yes, just to get a sale. And that will eat you up and it's not right, and it's bad for the entire like crafting industry. Just industry, whatever industry you're
Mhm.
in, it's bad.
Oh man, there are so many new photographers who make that same. It's not. I mean, I won't say mistake because I've certainly done it as well. You have this feeling that people are going to judge you for charging a certain amount, and of course, your work should stand up to the amount that you're charging.
Mhm.
However, you've spent the money on your equipment. You're taking time to edit. You're taking the time to be at the shoot. And I know a lot of people who started photography companies and they only charge, let's say they charge per hour, but they're like, well, it only took me 2 hours to do this shoot. But what about meeting the client? What about emailing back and forth? What about your editing time? All of that should be
Mhm.
accounted for. Even if you do love doing it, even if you would do it for free, it's not sustainable to continue to do it like that for other people.
And what I'll say too is you do because even in this guy's video, like he was like, if you just start out, I just don't recommend you just start selling. But if you do, at least
Yeah,
charge
you
what you're
hear
worth.
that? Did you hear that?
but 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 here's like a little caveat that I'm
Yeah.
gonna put in there, and you can totally like smack me down. So when I start a new hobby, all my hobbies build on each other, and plus
Mm.
I am a graphic designer by trade, right? And so, yes, I am. And for the record, people, I don't think I'm going to start selling stained glass.
Yeah,
I don't think.
it'll be weeks from now.
But I think because each hobby I get, I use skills from the last, I am going to be, not all the time, but depending on what skills are needed, better at picking up maybe a hobby than someone that has picked up a hobby for the very first time, because I know color theory, I have an eye for design, I have a steady hand from doing other crafts. And so when I do pick up a craft, I sometimes now, because I've just been doing crafts for so long, I'm going to get it faster. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It, which allows me at times to sometimes sell things a lot faster than somebody else who just picked up that same craft.
Oh,
It
no.
doesn't mean I'm the best and I'm good, because it still takes hours to become an expert, but I might be a little quicker in some crafts because of those other skills,
You're
which
absolutely
will
making
allow me
sense.
to charge a certain amount because I'm using those skills in order to make a good product.
Yeah, I was just teasing. First of all, I already know that you're planning to sell something. Second of all, everything that you're saying makes complete sense. And I would never say that people just starting out shouldn't be charging. Every People should charge right away. Right away.
But they need to make sure it goes back to what you were saying. It has to be a quality product though, right? Like it can't be something that you send and it falls apart, because then your reputation is trash. If you, or let's say if you just learned photography at the beginning of this year
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden you're doing a stranger's wedding,
Yeah, don't do that.
don't do that. Don't do that.
This is honestly what I tell people. And I go back to photography, but it goes with lots of different things too. I tell my students to have 10 quality shoots under their book. It doesn't even have to be quality shoots. 10 free shoots in your portfolio of things that you want to do that you've done to the best of your ability. Because that way you'll learn what equipment has run out. You'll learn that your battery is going to die during the shoot. So next time you have to make sure you have double batteries. You'll run out of space on your memory cards, all the little mistakes that you'll make. But then after that, no more free shoots, not even for family. I'm totally making it up. I'm going to take my pictures of my sister in 2 weeks. But, you know,
No, I get it. And then I have something else too that sometimes I am really terrible about, because I love creating. I love making art. I don't love marketing. I don't
mm-hmm.
love it. I have created some automated processes like using CoSchedule, and I have a system. I'm better about it at with my podcast than I am with some of my other physical products. But you have to be okay with marketing, because it it's if you build it, they will come. Nah, bruh.
No,
You have to actually tell them you've built it and why they should come.
right.
And so you have to be okay with that. Sometimes you will have someone will make something and then word of mouth will get out and you get lucky like that. But that still only gets you so far. At some point, you will need to market. And if you don't, you're not going to scale. You're not going to continue to make money.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that.
It's so tough because there's basic marketing principles that always stay the same, but then we have new media things that change so often and so quickly, and it can become overwhelming to think about. It's
Mm-hmm.
until you put together a process, like you said. The process itself doesn't have to be overwhelming, just has to be consistent and it has to
Yeah.
be on brand. So
Mm-hmm.
if somebody is just starting out, I wouldn't suggest trying to market on all 1,500 social media platforms at once. Just try to choose the best one or two and just be consistent with it. And
Mm-hmm.
social media is not the only way to market either. We were talking
Mm-mm.
about doing the outdoor sales. People will come back. If you love doing handcrafted things and you go to the same farmers markets every week, I love a good farmers market and I will go seek out a specific person to go to their stand every single time, whether they have a website or not. So sometimes it's non-traditional. Well, is that traditional marketing or non-traditional? It's just marketing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I would say email marketing too,
Mm,
like that old school. Let's say if you have a product and you want to get your product into businesses, emailing businesses, sending them like your sheet, doing a simple email will make all the difference in the world.
You know what
Like
else is a good?
reaching out to people.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Networking with other artists and other hobbyists.
Yeah.
You never know what kind of doors that will open.
Agree. I agree. I have a we episode coming up where actually networking with other people led this person in to find kind of their dream job right now. And
Mm.
so, yes, networking, that's the opposite of using the network to sell a product or, figure out how to put yourself out there. But yes, networks, building a community, really, really important.
Well, I mean, it is kind of helping you sell your product because let's say just through your network, you learn about a new craft fair or a new something to apply to that you didn't know otherwise. So it's indirect. You're not necessarily selling your wares to another crafter. Then again, people who like crafts like crafts. So I know that you go out every week and you'll buy a notebook or some pretty paper because you love a good craft. So networking with people that you've met, other crafters, that is another way to have a stream of income
And no, people, I not every week
every
anymore
week.
because I'm reducing my spending so I can buy glass.
So you can sell it so you can make more money.
And then I can buy more stuff from more crafters.
Oh,
It just feeds all into each other.
oh, so your glass is going to fuel your craft spending budget.
Exactly.
Okay,
So remember that, people. Remember that.
let this day go down in history as the day that Shay simultaneously said that she wasn't going to sell glass and she also made a plan to sell glass.
Look, okay, how about this? If you buy my journals, I'll buy other people's journals, okay? You're just really fueling the creative economy. It
Oh,
was funny when I went to Brookland the other day. I was like, oh my God, I don't buy this project planner. Don't do it, Nache. Don't do it. Yeah, I did it. And it's so beautiful. I haven't written in it yet, but I'm going to do it this weekend because I was like, you bought it. You said you're going to use it. You're going to use it with your Notion, and that is what you are going to do.
oh, but they're so pretty. I remember when I
It's
first
so, I
bought your
know.
journal, I didn't write on it for a long time. It was so pretty. Like, I can't mess this up with my terrible handwriting. Look at this. It's gorgeous.
I know. And it's funny because when I see journals that I don't like, I'm like, it's probably practical because I don't care about it because it's ugly. But then I'm like, but it's ugly.
Oh, wait, I have to tell the people the story about your search for a glass grinder.
Oh.
There is a very famous and well known, well respected glass grinding company that sells.
That looks like it's from 1979 was the last time they updated the design of this grinder. Like it's literally brown and tan. Okay, go ahead.
Well, right, that's the point. So the search for a pretty grinder that also had very good reviews, it just didn't happen. It didn't come up. And Shay was very disappointed because
So
of these ugly
heartbroken.
grinders. So if she comes out after a couple of years of making glass with her own brand of grinders, don't be
Listen,
surprised. They'll be beautiful.
I think I need to partner with the ugly grinder who will remain nameless because just in case I need to work with them in the future. I'm gonna help them with their design because it's ugly.
Oh, she couldn't do it. She was physically repulsed by this.
I still haven't bought it yet. It breaks my heart to buy equipment that ugly. I know it is serving a purpose, but it is ugly. I don't even want it in my apartment. I have not purchased it yet, and I need it.
Well, maybe you won't get this glass done then, because I have my grinder. So,
I know.
so we'll see.
Well, as we end here, I wanna also point out one more thing. that's super important, is knowing your why. Because my why for making money has changed through the years.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, I don't know when I started my first kind of side hustle 15 years ago or whatever, it was to get out of debt, to be able to travel, even go back to my hometown of Chicago. It was just literally to help me like just stay afloat because I really at that time wasn't making any money. I had student loan payments, I had a car note payment. I was like drowning. Through the years, that's changed. I've gotten raises at work. I've made a little here and there from my passions. And so my why through the years has changed. So like my why this year is very different from 15 years ago. Like I don't have to make money from my passions in order to live.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose to do it because I love it, which puts me in a different place. And the motivation is also very different. And so I think it's just very important to know what your why is because it'll help you determine a whole lot of things from if you should even be doing it to if it will bring in enough income for you to do the thing that you need to do
Mm-hmm.
or want to do rather.
Right. Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking of my why, and I literally could not be not be an entrepreneur.
Because yours is a business. Like it's like a legit like I think I would put you in small business instead of entrepreneur.
We can debate that. I mean, I consider myself a small business. I consider an entrepreneur to be a small business owner. Yeah, but my why, in addition to wanting to be a role model for my daughter and be comfortable with taking a non-traditional path, is that I just really don't think I can go back to a 9 to 5. I really
Mm-hmm.
don't, and I don't belittle anybody who has. And I did it for years and years and years, and until I was laid off and had to figure out my own way. So I just can't see another way. That sounds ridiculous.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. Not at all.
My bank account
Because
says otherwise.
but that's because your time is coming and you've been consistent. It's almost like the lady Tabitha Brown,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
How many I remember hearing her story. She was doing what she loved for years. Years. Her daughter had her go on to TikTok or whatever the story was, and then all of a sudden, it seemed like all of a sudden, even though she had been doing the work just like you for years,
Mm-hmm.
she finally got the recognition she deserved, and now she's doing all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think your why makes sense, and I think just like Tabitha and so many others, before you know it, we're gonna see you on Oprah.
Hmm.
You
I'll go
know,
out to
on
the
her
ranch.
show.
I'll go out to the ranch and have lunch with Oprah and who else? And Gail.
Or maybe she'll be paying you ridiculous amounts of money to like take a picture of her garden.
Her bountiful garden.
Exactly. Like, hey, here's 50K. Can I get, a few pictures? And oh, by the way, here are all my rich friends.
Exactly. There we go. Now we're talking. Now we are talking.
No, seriously though, like your why totally makes sense, even though it might seem like the harder path, but I think all paths are hard whenever you have to put in any kind of work, be it a 9 to 5, a side hustle, or a full time entrepreneur or small business owner.
I can agree with that for sure.
All right, folks. Well, I mean, gave you something to think about. But if you are, bottom line, if you are making money from your hobby, then you're like an entrepreneur. You can call yourself a hobbypreneur, but you're an entrepreneur. You claim anything on your taxes? You're an entrepreneur. Like, it's more than just a hobby. And so if people try to belittle you because they're like, oh, that's just a little hobby. You don't really make any money from it. You're not a business owner. Tell them Nache and Lakaye said, kick rocks.
Yeah, kick them.
All right, people. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, we appreciate you. Please, if you enjoyed this episode, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me 5 stars. It's greatly appreciated. If you're on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up. Wherever you're listening to the podcast, please make sure you subscribe. You can find me over at nachesnow.com. The show notes for this page, nachesnow.com/130. And to find Lakaye, remember you could always go over to lakayeumba.com. All her information will also be in the show notes. All right, until next time, take care, folks.
Bye.